Hi there, you're listening to the Guitar Speak podcast, the show produced in Sydney, Australia, where we speak to leading guitarists and guitar figures from all around the world. My name's Matt Wakeling, and thank you so much for joining me. Now, in today's episode, we speak to Albert Lee. That's right, the Albert Lee, whose explosive rock-infused country picking has won him a legion of fans since the early 1960s. Lee's remarkable career has seen him working as a sideman to Eric Clapton, Emmylou Harris, the Crickets and the Everly Brothers, while stepping out as a frontman since the late 1970s. Lee is a Grammy Award winner and a member of Guitar Player magazine's esteemed Gallery of the Greats. Now, at the age of 74, Lee's chops are as keen as ever. Just check out his latest release, Live at the Iridium, that came out earlier this year for proof. And Albert was kind enough to join us on the eve of his 2018 Australian tour, including shows at the Sydney Guitar Festival coming up in August. All right, let's just get straight to it. Here's my conversation with Albert Lee. Albert Lee, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Albert, we're really looking forward to you touring Australia in August. I know this is your first tour here in around 10 years, but it's certainly not your first trip to Australia.
Oh no, I've been coming quite a bit over the years, maybe a dozen times. But yeah, it's been a little while since I was down there, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, I was just listening to your latest album, Live at the Iridium, that was released a little bit earlier this year, and man, it finds you and your band in such great form.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm just trying to think who's on that. It won't be the same musicians, but
Sure.
they'll be just as good. I plan to bring my the American band down with me, but the drummer can't make it, so I'm bringing a drummer I work with in England. You know, so it's a mixture.
Okay, cool.
So, I've worked with these guys for a while now, so. You know, it's going to be fun.
Fantastic.
And they're looking forward to it too, of course.
Albert, you're almost heading into your 6th decade as a professional guitar player. What keeps driving you to keep recording and performing?
Well, I feel fortunate that I can still play, and I've always been able to play because I've always been able to work. You know, I think in some respects, if I'd been like a household name, you know, in some super group, you know, my playing might have suffered. You know, I think a lot of those guys just don't play every day. They don't need to, you know. But I've, you know, never a week doesn't go by without me having to play somewhere, you know. So. Which, you know, keeps me in fine fettle, I like to think.
Definitely. Like I said, listening to that record, there's as much verve and joy in those licks as I've ever heard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I enjoy it. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Now, your breakout hit as a solo artist was, of course, Country Boy, which came out in 1975. Now, that's been said to redefine country guitar playing for you know, a new generation of players. People like Ricky Skaggs, who of course covered it later in his career. How do you feel about being such an influence on a whole generation of players?
Well, it's quite an honour, really, you know, to be, you know, coming from England, and I'll get asked often. They say, "Well, how did you get into country?" And I said, "Well, it wasn't." Any more unusual than you know, a British guy getting into the blues. Really,
Sure.
It was something I liked to listen to, and I became quite good at it. And to be able to go to America and be accepted by you know, such great players over there, you know, that was icing on the cake. Really, you know, I think they liked my approach because I was playing their country music with a bit more of a rock and roll, you know, British rock and roll edge.
Yep.
And so, you know, I was, you know, certainly well received when I got to LA, and remained so. It's been great. there are a lot of players out there who play like me now, which is, that's an honor too, really. You can tell, well, I can tell when I listen to certain guys, I say, well, I think they've listened to me. And, but I listen to a lot of American players, and I can hear influences all the players I grew up with, so we just, we pass it on, pass on the torch,
Yeah. Interesting you say when you went to America, so that's the mid-70s, I believe, is that right?
That's right, yeah. Well, I started touring in the early 70s with a band called Head to Hands and Feet. And then, the band broke up, but some of us stayed there, and then I ended up with the Crickets, Buddy Holly's old band, the Crickets, and through them got to meet some of my heroes, my other heroes, and the longer I stayed in LA, the bigger foothold I was able to make, when I joined Emmylou in 1976, I realized at that point that this is it now. I'm playing with an American band that's really going somewhere. She'd just done a second album, and so it was just great to be to make that move.
Exactly, yeah. Well, she's an institution. Yeah. I mean, speaking of other American institutions, you ended up being the music director for the Everly Brothers when they did their reunion tour. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, actually, that does get quoted now and again. I wasn't really the musical director. In fact, they put the band together. Fortunately, they both chose me to be the guitar player, but they picked the other musicians as well, and we were all very familiar with the music. We grew up with it, and we'd be rehearsing, and then we put on the record and listen to it and say, oh yeah, I remember that, yeah, and it would all fall into place. There wasn't really any moment where say, oh no, well you do that and you do this. Everybody really had a feel for the music, and it just fell into place.
Mm-hmm. How about the Eric Clapton gig? You spent around 5 years playing beside Eric and singing in his band. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, well we've been friends for a few years. We met in the mid '60s in London, playing the same circuit when he was with John Mayall and I was with a guy named Chris Farlow. So I'd see a lot of him. We became friends, and then he formed Cream, and I'd run into him occasionally, and I guess it was a few years later that I did get to finally spend some time with him, and that was in England. He was involved in an album of an American singer named Mark Benno, and they suggested that I might be good on the record too, So I did more or less a whole week in the studio with Eric, and at the end of which he said, the last tour I did, I didn't have a second guitar player, and do you want to come out on the road? And I said, well, sounds great. In fact, my first record had just about to be released, and I thought, what? And I didn't know what to do at that time. I thought, what do I get back with Emmylou? Do I put a band together, or what do I do? And of course, I had the offer from Eric, and I thought, well, I'll do this for a while. This should be fun.
Uh-huh.
And he actually fired the whole band after the first tour, and retained me. And then a couple of years later, he had an English band and fired all those guys, and still I was able to hang on to my gig, But yeah, so it came as no surprise when he let me go after 5 years, because he was going through some health things, and I think but we're still good friends, and I've done the Crossroads concerts with him, and a couple of other things. So we're still good mates,
Great, great. Yeah, he certainly name checks you as one of the greatest guitar players in the world, indeed. So no doubt.
Well, yeah, that's another quote that I it makes me cringe a little bit
Really?
because I don't think it's the kind of thing he would have said. In fact, I did ask him about it one time. I said, Eric, I really have to apologize. I keep seeing this quote about you saying that I'm the best guitar player in the world, And I said, I know you wouldn't say that because we all know there is no greatest guitar player in the world. There's so many styles and we cover so much ground, And, jokingly, with a twinkle in his eye, he said, well, I might have said it, So I just left it at that, But I know he has said some nice things about me, and I'm very grateful for that, of course. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So, yeah, Albert, you've had an incredible career as a sideman. I read somewhere that you are reluctant to front your own band, though. Is that true?
Oh, I was at the beginning, yeah. I didn't start singing on stage until about 10 or 15 years after I started playing. And I started to feel comfortable with it. And then I was with Head, Hands and Feet in the early 70s. And I was one of three singers. When I was with Emmylou, I'd sing a song or two. When I was with Eric, I'd sing a song or two. But it was in the 80s, really, that a friend of mine in England, Jerry Hogan, he used to run a steel guitar festival. And he called me in LA and he said, I want you to come over and play my festival. And I said, oh, well, okay. He said, yeah, but, we do about an hour and, we can run through some of your songs and whatever. And I thought, well, I felt quite daunted by it. I thought, well, I've got to front the band for an hour, And we did it, and it went so easily. And I thought, I should have done this. I should have done this so many years before, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah.
And still doing occasional sideman for other people too.
Sure. Now, your nickname used to be Mr. Telecaster, but it may as well be Mr. Music Man because you've been playing those guitars for so long. When did your association start?
Well, I met Ernie Ball and Sterling Ball in the early 70s when I was with Head, Hands and Feet. They heard our country boy on the radio, and they came to see us play, and they were quite tickled to discover that this new band that they were listening to were English, So we became great friends from there on, and it was through Sterling, his involvement with the Music Man Company, which was run by Leo Fender and Tom Walker. Leo Fender designed the guitars and the basses, and Tom Walker designed the amps. Mm-hmm. That's how I got involved with Music Man. And then Leo went off on his own and started G&L.
Yes, yeah.
And then the Music Man name kind of they were. I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but they decided to. Tom decided that he wanted to sell the company, so Ernie Ball bought the Music Man name and retained Tom for a number of years. But really, they didn't put any amps out on the market. And I don't know why, actually, because I always loved their amps. I thought they were great amps. They were a little expensive, but there are a lot of expensive amps out there now, But the first thing Sterling and his father wanted to do when they bought the Music Man name was redesign a guitar. And I was there on the ground floor with that. I gave my impressions of what I'd like in a guitar, and first guitar they did was the Silhouette, which I immediately started playing.
Okay. Yeah.
And I loved it, and I started leaving the telly at home.
What were some of the things in that guitar that you were interested in incorporating as a point of difference from the telly?
Well, I took the Silhouette out on the road with the Everly Brothers, and the pickup setup was just like a Strat, 3 pickup and 5-way switch, and the guitar was so comfortable. It looks like it's a short scale, but it just the way it's designed, it looks. The whole guitar is shorter than a Fender or most other guitars, and so I immediately fell in love with them. And then Sterling had another design that he was trying to get going at the trade shows, at the NAMM shows, and I really liked the look of it, and. But they decided not to do anything with it at the time, because they had limited production, and of course they'd taken over the production of the big selling Music Man bass that everybody loved, the Stingray. Mm-hmm. So and then I played one of their guitars, the prototypes, and it was actually called the Axis at the time. And I played that for a number of years, and, it wasn't available to the general public, So when eventually they got the production up and Sterling approached me, he said, well, I think we're going to put your guitar out, do you want to make any changes to it or just have it as you've been playing it, So we just left it as it was. It wasn't exactly the same because the prototype I had was all maple.
Okay.
And so the first ones they made and still make a ash body with a maple neck, But since then, they've come out with some different innovations, like a double humbucker and a 3 P90 model and tremolo or without tremolo. And but I was really happy when it came out with my name on it, and because they're really cool guitars, and a few people have been playing them over the years, which is pretty cool,
Yeah, definitely. They seem to have been accepted by a lot of different styles of players too, like from rock players to country players, and lots of points in between as well.
Oh yeah. But I suppose that there are a lot of guys country guys have picked up on them because they've heard me, So.
Yeah, sure.
I guess, but it is a versatile guitar. And then they came to me and said, well, we're thinking about putting out, a double humbucker version. What do you think? I said, well, you guys know best. You know the market. And they've been good sellers, They're very popular.
Yeah.
And they're great guitars, And they've got a rosewood neck too, So it's a slightly different innovation. But I still like the maple neck with the 3 single coils.
Okay. Yeah. And is that the type you'll be bringing on your next tour?
Yeah, I'll probably bring one of those down too. Yeah.
Okay. And what about amps? Do you use backline? Do you have certain requirements when you're doing the festivals and touring gigs?
Well, I stopped using the Music Man amps a while back, even though I still love them. And but they are like 30 years old, those amps. I've got a bunch of them.
Uh-huh.
But I got someone suggested that I try the Fender Tone Master, and I've ended up with like 3 of those. I've got one in England and 2 of them in LA. And what I like to do with them is cut ports in the back of it, so it's an open back cabinet.
Oh, okay, yep.
And I got that idea from Eric actually, because when I started playing with him, he was playing Music Man amps, like a big a large cabinet, open back, with just 2 12s in it. So it was like a twin amp, but with a much larger box. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
So I started playing those for a while. You know, when I was with Eric, I had some cabinets built. You know, but now I'm using these Tone Masters, and you know, I've cut the ports in the back, and so that, you know, it's got that open back feel to it. You know, yep. But trying to locate some of those, you know, when I'm traveling around the world is a little difficult. You know, so I opt for the easy way out and suggest I have a twin or two. You know?
Yeah.
So that's probably what I'll be using in Australia when I come down.
Sure. Yeah, it's good ubiquitous choice, and I'm sure you'll make good use of it.
Yeah, well, when I'm on the road in the States, yeah. So if I'm playing on the East Coast of the States, you know, I can't bring my own stuff. So,
sure, yeah.
You know, they've supplied twin amps, and I'm always happy with them.
Great stuff. And what does the rest of 2018 hold for you? So as we said, your new album, Live at the Iridium, was just released. You've got the Australian tour. I see you touring in the States.
Oh, yeah.
Again.
Well, we did. Yeah, that's not that new, actually, but they needed something to promote while we were down there, you know.
Oh, okay,
and,
okay.
So that's... but it gives a, you know, fair representation of what I'm doing on stage now, you know.
Yeah,
so,
great.
Yeah, we'll be selling those at the gigs. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
But,
very cool. Well, Albert, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real honour to speak with you, and as I said, yeah, there's a lot of anticipation leading up to your Australian tour.
Oh no, you're welcome. I'm really looking forward to it, and thank you for your interest.
All right, there you go, my conversation with Albert Lee, and really it's no wonder why he is so well loved by his fans and peers alike. What a humble gentleman and absolute legend of the guitar community. Make sure you check out dates for his Australian tour in August 2018, including at the Sydney Guitar Festival. All right, make sure you stay tuned to us here at the Guitar Speak podcast. Subscribe if you have not already on iTunes or Stitcher or many of the places where you can get podcasts, because we've got heaps of great stuff coming up. Today I spoke to Kaki King. That was very cool. She is amazing. So that interview's coming up soon. Also interviews with Dave Leslie, Steve Edmonds and John Stensland. Just to name the ones I've already got in the can. All right, my name's Matt Wakeling. Thank you so much for joining me at the Guitar Speak podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.